There's no pretending it was not a bad outcome for Angela Merkel's Conservatives. To put it bluntly, this is not a good election evening for the CDU. We would have wished for different and better results in the Baden-Württemberg and Rhineland-Palatinate state elections. In Rhineland-Palatinate, home of the COVID-19 vaccine developer BioNTech, the governing centre-left SPD retains the lead, with more than a third of the votes. Angela Merkel's CDU ranks second with over a quarter, but down 4% on the last election. And regional partners the Greens have just under 10%. Baden-Württemberg, best known for car makers Porsche and Mercedes, sees the Greens, the main governing party, increase their vote share to just under a third. Their coalition partners, the CDU, again lose votes, but retain nearly a quarter share. So it was a good night for the Greens. This is a super start to this major election year, and we will hopefully be able to capitalise on this momentum going forward. The SPD, the main coalition partners in the federal government, are celebrating their outright win in Rhineland-Palatinate and third place in Baden-Württemberg, with an eye on Germany's autumn federal elections. Both results give a clear indication that a governing coalition could be formed in Germany without the CDU. This gives us momentum for the federal election and potentially for getting into the Chancellor's office. A national government without Merkel's CDU would be a massive political shift. The party was already under pressure following a corruption scandal involving conservative politicians profiting from face mask procurement deals. Merkel has said she will stand down at the end of her current term. Her popularity has helped the CDU win power in the last 4 federal elections. But the Conservatives have yet to decide on who will be their candidate for Chancellor in September.
For some reaction now, we're joined by Matthias von Masha. He's a member of Germany's parliament, the Bundestag, representing the Conservative CDU party, and joins us from Freiburg. Thanks for being with us this morning. Mr. Masha, your party used to be the dominant force in your home state of Baden-Württemberg. Now, support for the CDU there has dropped to just 24%. How do you account for that slump?
Well, in fact, it's a dark day for the Christian Democrats, not only in Baden-Württemberg, also in Rhineland-Palatinate, and I think in all Germany. But what is the reason? The reason is that in both Baden-Württemberg and Rhineland-Palatinate, we have minister presidents that are very popular, that are very close to the people, that talk their language, that are pragmatic and not ideological. So these two are quite different from the national parties, the Green and the Social Democrats. And that is the reason why they were so successful in these two Länder of Baden-Württemberg.
Let's look at that.
Nevertheless, we have had big.
Go ahead.
Yeah, the national picture is interesting because we see that in Rhineland-Palatinate there is a government of Social Democrats, Green, and that is interesting, the Liberals that stand for economic strength and growth, that stand for low taxes, and that basically would not be thought to be a member of such a coalition. And now this might be also a chance for them to have a government in the national elections together with the Green and the Social Democrats. And therefore, the CDU must show again that they are the integrative, big, popular party.
I want to ask you about the CDU, looking at that September election on the national level. What do you think that your party needs to do at this point to improve its fortunes, particularly in light of the mask procurement scandals?
Well, our faction has already taken strict measures to give more transparency of private business activities of members of parliament. I think this transparency is needed to give back what people need, and that is trust in policy. And that is one thing. But more important, I think, is that the CDU gains again the force of a popular party, and that means that we need to integrate both economic strength and ecological measures, climate protection. We need to integrate all parts of the society. We need also to give those who need social support a good perspective. We need digitalization of whole society, and that is where we need fresh wind in our party.
Okay. The Greens, they're the strongest party in your home state. They have been for a while. They seem to be getting a lot of support at the moment. Do you think they can duplicate their success at the national level?
It will be difficult because you have to see that Winfried Kretschmann, Minister President in Baden-Württemberg, is quite conservative. He loves even diesel cars, something which the Green on the national level hate. He loves to speak the language of the people. He has he doesn't like at all political correctness. And that is also what the Green hate in the National Party. So he is not ideological. He is very close to the people. And it will be very interesting to see whether the Green at the national political level can cope this and whether they really want to be a party for the center society, for the center middle class, or whether they will stick to their ideological way.
Mr. von Masha, thank you very much for talking with us. That was Matthias von Masha, the CDU member of Germany's Bundestag.
Thank you so much.
Let's bring in DW's chief political editor, Mikhail Kufner here. Mikhail, polls had pointed to trouble for Merkel's party. So how big of a shock were last night's results for the CDU?
Well, it still was a big shock. They did see it coming, that they would suffer yet another setback, particularly in the state of Baden-Württemberg, where they were in government for a very long time before the Greens took over. But then to come out with the worst results since the modern German Republic really was quite a defeat. And we're still to hear from the party leader Armin Laschet, who still sees himself in pole position to take over from Angela Merkel to become Chancellor candidate in those federal elections. But to go into this election year with such setbacks and to also see the Greens now have more options than what is tipped to be the most likely option, which is a coalition with Angela Merkel's party, that is quite something. And these elections also show that a government, a post-Merkel government without her party, which was previously unthinkable, may actually become a bitter reality for the CDU. So they're very much on the defensive right now.
A bitter reality. Well, Merkel is not running again, as we've mentioned. Her Conservatives have yet to name a Chancellor candidate for September's general election. How do you think yesterday's vote might impact their thinking?
Well, it will get the CDU thinking a lot more now who could actually score in the popularity ratings. And there, Armin Laschet, who stands for continuity, who's seen very much as Angela Merkel's man to succeed her, is really very much on the defensive. Markus Söder, the state premier of Bavaria, he has been riding high in the opinion polls, although he too suffered a bit of a setback recently over the corona performance. But he looks a much more likely contender right now. And the CDU itself has to face up to a lot of questions over their own credibility after MPs had to sign a document last week basically guaranteeing that they didn't personally enrich themselves through the corona crisis. This after 3 MPs had to stand down. 2 over alleged links making profits from tradings with masks, those clinical masks that are so much needed in this crisis. So really a credibility crisis for Angela Merkel's CDU at the worst possible time. And the man who has to fix it is Armin Laschet.
What about the Greens? They were the big winners last night. Any chance they could maybe overtake the Conservatives at the national level?
Well, that's how they like to see it. They are already dreaming of being able to pick who they go into a coalition with from several options, not just potentially Angela Merkel's CDU party. But what also became very much clear is that the state premier Kretschmann in Baden-Württemberg, that personality is the man who secured this victory. He's a lot more conservative than the Greens at the central level. So these general elections also will be a lot more about personality than simple party profile.
Mikhail, thank you very much as always. DW's chief political editor, Mikhail Kufner.